Hello and welcome back to FPL Mate, your best mate for FPL 2020-21 season. My name is Dan and today I've got for you the best bargain players, I think, of the whole game right now. So I've looked through all of the players in FPL. I'm seeing who is going to be the best bargain, what kind of player we can bring in. Say we want to spend a lot of money on other areas of our pitch, and we want to bring Aubameyang in, KDB in, Salah in. We want all of these premium players, and we need to cut the costs a little bit elsewhere. I picked out the best players to help you do that, while still being able to field some really, really strong players. So all of these players are players you still play every week in your starting 11, but they're just really, really cheap for what they are. So hopefully they'll offer a lot more than what their actual price is. So we are going to go through them. I am churning out videos like an absolute madman at the moment. So if you are into fantasy Premier League videos, please do consider subscribing. So much more to come. I'll tell you a little bit later about what I've got to come as well. But let's get stuck in. Let's start with this first bargain player. And this is in no particular order, so don't worry about the order today. But my first player has got to be Allan Saint-Maximin at 5.5 million. Who has essentially become the go-to bargain midfielder. Everyone is looking at him. Everyone seems to be bringing him to their team. I think his ownership is something like 20%. So 20% of players have Allan Saint-Maximin. So he's clearly a really popular midfielder there, just because of his price, I guess. He's clearly a very talented guy as well. So he improved throughout the season and he looked really impressive. But sort of after the break, so we're going to hope that he kicks on and has an even better second full season. We know French footballers coming in from Ligue 1 sometimes struggle to immediately make an impact in the Premier League, especially attacking players. And we saw a similar thing with Pepe last season. Started looking better towards the end of the season, but struggled at the start. And hopefully, now that Saint-Maximin has been in the Premier League a little bit longer, he can really kick on and start producing some real good end products to go with what is clearly some real natural raw talent that he's got there. His stats post lockdown are particularly impressive. So he did nail his spot down in the starting 11, which is fantastic to know as well. But he got 3 assists and a goal in 8 games. Now, there's lots of talk about Newcastle signing new attacking players as well, which is going to benefit Saint-Maximin. For example, I think I saw yesterday Newcastle linked with Callum Wilson. Now, if Callum Wilson is playing up front and Saint-Maximin is playing as a winger beside Callum Wilson, he can put those chances in for Wilson, who is a great striker and can really, really finish off those goals. So that's going to be really beneficial for Saint-Maximin. And 5.5 million, I can't even believe I'm calling him a 5.5 million midfielder, because he really should be 6 million, 6.5. So don't be put off by his price. If you need a midfielder at that price, go for Saint-Maximin. But there is another option or a couple of options later on in the video, so do stay tuned for those. Next up, Charlie Taylor, 4.5 million defender. And he's just is an incredibly cheap way into the Burnley defence without having to break your bank at all. So you do want to get in on the Burnley defence, because they do keep so many clean sheets. And Charlie Taylor is one of the nailed-on guys. If he is fit, which he currently is, he will play. And he's far more safe than a player, for example, the other 4.5 million defenders at Burnley. So Peters, Bardsley and Loughton. I'd say out of those 4, Taylor is by far the most likely to be starting game in, game out. Of course, assuming he's not suspended, he's not injured. The other nailed-on players who you might look at, Pope or Tarkowski, who are obviously really good options in the Burnley defence, but they're both a whole 1 million more. So in terms of trying to find a budget option, trying to cut some corners somewhere, say you've already got Tarkowski in your team or you've already got Pope in your team and you still want to stay in the Burnley defence but you want to save a bit of money, Taylor is absolutely perfect for that. Taylor, of course, is not going to offer you very much attacking threat, even though he is a fullback, because Burnley, they don't really play through the fullbacks that much, but Burnley don't score that many goals in general, if I'm honest, and for that reason it actually benefits the defenders, because defenders will pick up more bonus points if their team they're playing in is getting a lot of 1-0s, a lot of 0-0s, then the defenders will get all the bonus points, and that's what we like. For a team like Burnley, that's what they do. Taylor is a player who would be benefiting from that. So my next pick is William Saliba. William start or William not? William benched. I don't know. That's an awful joke. Let's pretend that didn't happen. But if he does start, what an amazing bargain. He's obviously a really highly rated young defender, but he's a bit of an unknown quantity, which is probably why he's been priced so cheaply. But if he does start, he's suddenly this amazing way into the Arsenal defence without breaking the bank. If you compare him to like the 5.5 million for Tierney or the 5 million for Leno, 5.5 million for David Luiz, for God's sake. So in that comparison, Saliba looks really good if he plays. You do have to be a bit cautious because he wasn't an Arteta signing, so Arteta didn't sign him technically. He did have injury problems at the beginning of last season, and it might be a case of waiting and see and watching the Community Shield. Obviously, the Community Shield is played before the start of the Premier League, before the Game Week 1 deadline. So we can watch the Community Shield, see where does Saliba line up. Does he start in the starting 11? Is he playing as a part of a back 2, part of a back 3? And we can assess the odds of him playing in Game Week 1. But if he does, he's going to look like such a bargain compared to the other guys. I know there's a typical thing that Arsenal aren't very good at defending, but really, if you think about it, you're saying that in comparison to like Chelsea, in comparison to like Liverpool, Manchester City, Manchester United. In terms of the whole league, Arsenal's defence is actually not that bad, and it does seem to be improving as well. So Saliba definitely worth having a look at. You know, getting one of the top 6 teams that's nailed on defenders for 4.5 million, assuming he is nailed on defender. That's just going to be fantastic, isn't it? So next up is Nathan Ferguson, only 4 million for a defender. So this is a no-brainer, really. He's going in my team, and you cannot tell me to get him out of my team because this guy, Nathan Ferguson, is being called the next Aaron Wan-Bissaka. He's a really highly rated young defender. He primarily plays at right back. He's just signed for Crystal Palace from West Brom on a free because his contract ran out. Palace historically a defensive side under Hodgson. So although they did concede a few goals towards the end of last season, typically if things go back to the norm, which you expect that they might in the new season, Palace again are going to be a bit of a defensive side, which really benefits any of their defenders. He played fairly regularly for West Brom, and he could replace Joel Ward at right back, who had injury problems last season, didn't really even look that good last season. So I do think Crystal Palace are going to be looking for a new regular right back in that position. But also, Ferguson can play on the left, which Van Aanholt is currently injured, so he could fill in there. Ferguson could also play at centre back as well if needed, so he can fill in there as well. So he can play all across the back line. He's going to be filling in if there's any injuries, and that will nail him on. And he could really establish himself as a starter very, very early on. So definitely one to keep an eye on, and he, like I said, he's in my team on my bench, and you will not remove him from my bench, and hopefully he can nail on a spot and just become a bit of FPL bargain gold this season. Next up, Thomas Soucek. Everyone's calling him the new Fellaini in Moyes' West Ham team. So he's a tall, really strong, powerful central defensive midfielder, but with a twist. Everyone assumes he's a defensive midfielder. He's only 5 million for a reason. But what people don't consider is the fact that every time his team attacks, so in this example West Ham, he flies into the box. He tries to get on the end of crosses. He tries to get on the end of set pieces, corners. Everything is aimed at Soucek just because he's so tall and strong and really, really a bit of a dangerous guy in the penalty area. So he does charge up the pitch and get involved in all of these attacks. So you can't really think of him as a CDM. He's only a CDM, a defensive midfielder, when West Ham are defending. When West Ham are attacking, he's very much part of the attack. So he's got a really good goal scoring record. He sort of, even in the Premier League last season since he signed, back in the Czech League, and he even got some goals in the Champions League as well. He pretty much averages just under 1 goal every 2 games. So when you think about it like that, is that really the behaviour of a defensive midfielder? 1 goal every 2 games? No, of course it's not. So this is a guy who is definitely a goal threat, definitely a guy who can score goals, and he will be scoring goals next season. There's no doubt about that. So for 5 million, he is an absolute bargain for what he actually is. Under all of the speculation that he's just a centre defensive midfielder. He's so much more than that. Get him in your team. Next up, Tariq Lamptey. An interesting pick, as Brighton are expected to move to a back 3 formation, which means Lamptey will be playing essentially as a right midfielder, so a right wing back / right midfield role. Then you've got a defender in FPL who's actually playing more like a midfielder. Brighton played this exact formation with Lamptey playing right mid in the final game of last season, and during that game he created 4 key passes and 2 big chances as well. So if that's any indication of things to come for Lamptey, that could be amazing. You know, more goal contributions and all of the clean sheets that Brighton get all at the same time. I don't know if that reminds you of anyone, maybe a Lundstrom perhaps. Which, by the way, next video is going to be called finding the next John Lundstram. So next video, I'll be going through some players who could be this season's John Lundstram. You don't want to miss that, so make sure subscribe, notifications on if you're interested at all in that video, because that is going to be it's going to be a really good one. I've already started making notes, so you'll see that in a couple of days, I'm sure. I say let's move on with the video anyway. So next up is Stuart Armstrong. I know I had Stuart Armstrong in my last video. It's just because it's so surprising that he's 5.5 million. I can't believe that. Like I said yesterday, 2 goals and 3 assists in just 7 starts post break last season. I'm sure that's just there's someone mistranslated this somewhere. He's got all of these contributions and he's 5.5 million. It seems a bit wild, really, but you know, there we go. The concern is that he did overperform his expected stats, but still he got all of those goals and got an assist in those 7 starts last season at the end there, and even longer term in the season, he did look a really good option for sort of after Christmas, when Southampton really turned it around and started looking really good, and Southampton were looking really good, particularly towards the end of the season. So yeah, as long as Southampton aren't signing any more attacking midfield players, Armstrong is going to be playing the vast majority of games. So he's going to be a really good option in a really strong attack. Maybe get some assists to Ings, maybe get some goals, sort of shooting outside the box kind of thing. He's that kind of player, so really interesting, and a great pick at 5.5 million if you didn't want to go for Sam Maximan. And finally, I've got to throw in a goalkeeper, and it's Alex McCarthy at 4.5 million. Currently, there's only really 2 budget keepers that are even worth looking at. That could all change, of course, but right now, Alex McCarthy of Southampton and Matt Ryan of Brighton. And if you're asking me who's the bigger bargain, it's McCarthy. I've got no doubt about that. I really prefer McCarthy to Matt Ryan. And McCarthy missed the first 10 games of last season through injury, so his overall stats from last season don't really show just how good he was. You've got to take it more of a game-by-game basis, look at his stats per 90, and when you look at his stats per 90, it looks far better than not just Matt Ryan, but quite a few other goalkeepers as well. So per 90 minutes played, McCarthy beats every other goalkeeper in the Premier League for save points, aside from Villa's Tom Heaton, who obviously played a few games at the beginning of last season, and he's equal with Hugo Lloris. So that means he's beating the likes of Pope, Leno, Henderson, Dubravka, who we know is a player who gets a lot of save points. McCarthy beats the lot of them if you take it as per game rather than throughout the whole season, because McCarthy wasn't fortunate enough to play the whole season. He missed a quarter of it, essentially. So if he played the whole season, he'd be topping those tables, and that's why he's going straight in my team. What I like as well is Southampton were an improved defence towards the end of last season, even this whole second half of the season, really. They really improved defensively. And more so than that, they seem to be investing in defence even more. So they've signed Kyle Walker-Peters on a permanent transfer now. And they also signed the highly rated Ghanaian centre-back Mohamed Salisu, who a lot of people have been talking about and touting as a real upcoming centre-back, who obviously had a really impressive campaign in La Liga last year. So they're improving in defence. McCarthy seems like a really good pick. So yeah, I'm probably going to put him in my team, to be honest. Anyway, that's all of my picks, and that's a whole 8 in no particular order. Of course, I didn't put a striker in there. I don't have any forwards because I looked through the forwards and there wasn't really anyone who was standing out as a real good budget option. When I think of budget, I think sort of 5.5 million and below, and there wasn't anyone 5.5 million below that really stood out and made me say wow. I mean, there's a couple of guys at 6 million, maybe like a Mitrovic or a Shea Adams. I like them at 6 million, but you know, that's a video for another time. We can revisit that topic, I think, in terms of cheaper forwards. So yeah, that's the video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, please do leave a like. Just take a couple of seconds and it will mean so much to me. It really will. If you want to see more of my stuff, like I said, more videos coming. If you want FPL content, I have got it for you. I'm going to create a real nice backlog. So for as long as you want to watch videos, I will have videos for you to watch. So please do consider subscribing if that's your kind of thing. And aside from that, I hope to see you on the next video. As I said, finding the next John Lundstram is going to be a real interesting one. I'm looking forward to sharing that with you guys and seeing what you guys think to that. Already started making notes on that. But yeah, that's it. That's the video. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later, mates. Bye-bye.